along the wide blue channel of the St. Croix River, where green bluffs rise on either shore. A small city of brick storefronts and church steeples gathers at the edge of the water, and a great steel bridge reaches across to the far bank. This is one of the oldest towns in Minnesota, a place where a river, a fortune in pine, and the birth of a state all meet along a single stretch of Main Street. Welcome to Stillwater. We are in eastern Minnesota, on the banks of the St. Croix River, at the very edge of the state where Minnesota meets Wisconsin. The river here forms the border between the two states, and Stillwater sits on the Minnesota shore, about half an hour east of the Twin Cities. It is a valley town, tucked between wooded bluffs and the broad, slow water, looking across to Wisconsin on the opposite bank. Before us, the river town opens along the shore, its streets climbing back from the water up the sides of the valley. Handsome brick buildings line the main street, their storefronts and cornices little changed in more than a century. Above them stand grand old houses on the bluffs, and below them the St. Croix stretches wide and calm. Stillwater has the settled, graceful look of a place that grew rich long ago and has carefully kept its old face ever since. The river is the reason for all of it. The St. Croix flows down from the North Woods to join the Mississippi, a broad and beautiful waterway lined with steep, forested bluffs. For a long stretch of its course, it serves as the boundary between Minnesota and Wisconsin, and at Stillwater it widens into a calm, lake-like reach that has drawn boats and travelers for generations. It is a river prized today for its clear water and its quiet beauty, protected as a national scenic riverway. Stillwater is often called the birthplace of Minnesota, and the title was earned here in the summer of 1848. As the old Wisconsin Territory became a state and left the lands to its west without a government, leaders from across the region gathered in Stillwater for an important convention. Their appeal helped set in motion the creation of the Minnesota Territory, and with it, the path toward statehood. From this small river town came one of the first steps toward a state of Minnesota. What truly built the town was timber. In the middle of the 1800s, the great pine forests of the north were falling to the axe, and Stillwater stood at the gateway where the St. Croix carried that wealth downstream. The town became one of the first and greatest lumber centers of the region, its waterfront crowded with mills and its air thick with the smell of fresh-cut pine. For half a century, this was a place that ran on wood. Each spring the river filled with logs. Vast rafts of white pine, cut far upstream through the long winter, floated down the St. Croix to Stillwater in numbers almost beyond counting. Just above the town lay the great log boom, where the drifting timber was caught, sorted, and gathered before it moved on to the mills. The sight of the river carpeted with logs, stretching from bank to bank, was one of the wonders of the frontier. All that pine made fortunes. The sawmills along the Stillwater riverfront turned the endless rafts of logs into lumber that built the growing cities of the plains, and the men who owned them grew wealthy on the trade. Lumber barons rose here, their money flowing back into the town in the form of banks, businesses, and mansions. For a brief and booming age, Stillwater was one of the richest and busiest towns in the young state. That old wealth is still written across the town today. The fortunes of the lumber era built the handsome brick Main Street that we come to now, block after block of ornate storefronts, and the grand houses that crown the surrounding bluffs. These buildings were made to last, in stone and brick and iron, and they have outlived the mills that paid for them. To move along the Main Street is to pass through a living catalog of the town's golden years. Today, that historic downtown has found a graceful second life. The old brick buildings now hold antique shops, bookstores, cafes, and inns, and visitors come from across the region to browse and linger by the river. Where lumber once ruled, the town now trades in charm and history, its streets busy with people drawn to its old-world beauty. Stillwater has become one of the most beloved river destinations in Minnesota. And rising over the water stands the landmark that everyone remembers. The Stillwater Lift Bridge, a great steel vertical lift bridge, has spanned the St. Croix since around 1931. Its tall towers and long trusses reach across the river to the Wisconsin shore, a bold piece of engineering from an age of confident bridge building. For nearly a century, it has been the very symbol of the town, framed in countless photographs against the water. What makes the bridge remarkable is that its middle can rise. Rather than swinging aside, the entire center span of the Stillwater Lift Bridge lifts straight up between its towers, climbing high above the river to let tall boats pass beneath. For generations, the sight of the great span rising, cables and counterweights at work, was a familiar drama on the waterfront. It is one of only a handful of such vertical lift bridges ever built in this part of the country. For most of its life, the bridge was a working highway crossing. Decade after decade, it carried cars and trucks between Minnesota and Wisconsin, the main road link across this stretch of the St. Croix. In summer, the traffic backed up along the riverfront as the span rose for passing boats, and the little bridge, never built for such crowds, grew famous for its patient bottlenecks. It served faithfully far longer than anyone in 1930 one could have imagined. At last, a modern crossing came to relieve it. A new bridge was raised over the river nearby, taking on the cars and trucks, and the historic lift bridge was spared and given a gentler purpose. It was carefully restored and reborn as a bridge for walking and cycling, the centerpiece of a loop trail that carries visitors across the river and back along both shores. The old landmark, once a road, is now a quiet promenade above the water. Below the bridge, the riverfront opens as the heart of the town. A green park runs along the shore, its gazebos and pathways looking out over the wide St. Croix, and riverboats line up at the docks to carry sightseers out onto the water. Paddle wheelers and pleasure craft drift where log rafts once crowded the channel, and on a fine day the whole waterfront comes alive with the easy pleasures of a river town at rest. A river town of brick and pine, a bridge that lifts to the sky, and the wide St. Croix rolling on toward the border. Stillwater keeps the charm of its golden age along every block and every stretch of shore. Thank you for watching. Follow for more interesting people, places, and things we cover on the channel.